Alexander Fleming was the Scotsman who discovered penicillin. Where do you think his ancestors came from? I've been making a series of videos about the groups of people who made the Scots. We looked at the Scots, the Picts, the Britons, the Angles and the Norse. We've also covered the Normans. Today, I want to look at the Flemish. So if you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then hit the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and click the notification bell to make sure that you're notified each time I upload. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Like most countries, Scotland's a mix of different peoples. Some of those we can see in the landscape. Some we can see in the language. Some seem almost lost, but they're there if you look for them. For this video, I have to give credit to the book Scotland and the Flemish People, appropriately edited by Alexander Fleming and Roger Mason. Now, depending on when you're talking about, Flanders is broadly speaking the Low Countries and a wee bit of northern France. Their borders, like ours, have changed over the centuries. So why did Flemish people come to Scotland? I suppose the same reason that folks cross the Channel in boats today. They were either refugees or economic migrants, although there were a few key players who were soldiers of fortune. Economic migrants with swords. The 11th century saw the rise of primogeniture. Now, that's where the eldest son inherited all daddy's land, leaving the second son to seek his own fortune, or write a book about the family. Medieval economic and commercial development in Flanders created densely populated towns, and land needed for crop production left gaps in the supply of wool for the hugely successful cloth makers. Oh, and of course there were wars. Inheritance, population growth and conflict. In Flanders, they had all three. Of course, there have been links with Flanders from before Malcolm Canmore in the 11th century right through to the formation of Great Britain in the 17th. But there were two periods that stand out. For the first, I've brought you to the north and Duffus Castle in Moray, although our story starts in the south of England. You see, when William the Conqueror crossed the English Channel in 1066, he didn't just bring Normans. The family that would become the Stuart monarchs were from Brittany. The Battle of Hastings had Normans in the middle, Bretons on the left flank and French and Flemish on the right. Now, if you've been watching this channel, then you'll know that David I of Scotland grew up at the Norman court of Henry I, who'd married David's sister. Now, if you want to know more about David in that period, then click through the playlist top right. When David became King of Scots, he brought Norman knights from the south to subdue and control his Scottish territories. But some of them were Flemish. Take a look at the map. Scotland shows the Flemish stamp on it. Flemington, Flemington, Fleming's land, Avoynia Flanrusach. That's Gaelic for Flemish moor. Flemingbeath, Towert Fleming, Flemington, 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 and you've also got Flemington, Flemiland, Flemington, Fleming Hill and Flemington. But there are less obvious markers too. I said that the surname Fleming was an indicator of Flemish descent. That doesn't represent one family, but lots of different Flemish people who arrived in Scotland and took on, or were given, a name that described their origin. So Flemings will have come from different waves of migrating Flemish families over the centuries. Of course, the medieval elites that we described tended to take their names from the land that they held. So, in 1124, when David I brought a Flemish knight from Grantham in Yorkshire, William de Graham, Grantham, gave us the surname Graham. At the same time, David brought the sons of Gilbert of Ghent, Now, Gilbert had been awarded lands when he came with William the Conqueror. So the boys took their name from those lands in Lindsey in Lincolnshire. You see, Lindsey seems like a Scottish name now, but they probably still put mayonnaise in their chips. Flemish Spaldings came from Lincolnshire, others from Holyford in Northamptonshire that give us Oliford, then Oliphant. Simon Lockhart gave his name to Lockerbie, but some Flemish knights took their names from Scottish lands. For example, a Flemish knight called Berwald was given lands about 8 miles away from here, and he took his appellation from that area and gave us the name Innis. But Berwald was also given lands in West Lothian which were named Berwald's Toon Ness. Now that cumbersome tongue twister became Borristoun Ness, then simply Bo'ness. William, a Flemish son of Erkenbald, did I say Archibald? Anyway, his son William took the name of his area. William was the first Lord of Douglas. William's son was Archibald Douglas. He thought he was Archie. Of course, the Douglas family grew in strength and prominence as a result of good Sir James Douglas. But I think there's a bigger name yet. Remember, these are the lands of Macbeth. And bearing in mind it was David's father who had killed Macbeth, the knight that David sent to control these lands in Murray had to impose himself. The fact that some low-lying lands along this coast had to be drained and reclaimed might be another good reason to send dike-building engineers from the Low Countries. The man that David sent was Freskin, who took his name from these lands and was known as Freskin de Moravia. His 3 times great-grandson, Andrew de Murray, would stand with Wallace at Stirling Bridge. I've got a video about him. Click the link up there. Now, Flemish landowners would bring Flemish lesser knights with them, but there was more to the Flemish incursion than just warrior knights. Anyone that's visited the great border abbeys knows that David was also a great abbey builder. Abbeys like Melrose and Dryborough weren't just places of prayer and contemplation. They were centres for agricultural production and advancement. They were a source for wool production for export to Flanders through the heavily Flemish populated Berwick-upon-Tweed. Upper Clydesdale had large Flemish colonisation around Biggar, Symington, Lamington, Crawford, John, where lands were also associated with an abbey, but Kelso Abbey, that also fed Berwick. Of course, as well as Berwick, David created other boroughs in Edinburgh, Roxburgh, Dunfermline, Perth, Stirling that attracted Flemish traders. And of course, once he'd subdued Murray, Elgin, Forres and more elsewhere followed. By the time we get to David's descendant, Alexander III, he was marrying his son to Margaret of Flanders. Of course, we know that his son predeceased him because it was when Alexander died, the last of the Canmore kings, that Edward Longshanks made his claim over Scotland. Edward's invasion finally came when the Scots signed the Auld Alliance with France. If you want to know more about the Auld Alliance, click up there for my list of videos and that. The thing is that Edward had been a certain power over Scotland, but was also at war with the French. So the French embargo on trade with England also drew in France and England's vassal states of Flanders and Scotland respectively. On top of everything else, with the loss of trade with Flanders, there was a motivating factor for the Auld Alliance, after which trade with Flanders could resume. So now, you might view some of the heroes of the Wars of Independence differently. Andrew de Murray with William Wallace, and then Thomas Randolph, Earl of Murray with Robert the Bruce, and of course, the greatest of all, good Sir James Douglas, all came from Flemish ancestry. The Flemish weren't component parts in the same way as the Scots, the Picts, the Britons or the Angles, but Flemish immigrants and descendants were a huge part of the establishment and retention of Scotland from the time of Macbeth to Robert the Bruce. But there was more Flemish influence and migration after that. A charter of 1164 said that St Andrews was peopled by Scots, French, Flemish and English, both within and without the borough. On the coast, a religious centre, a place of pilgrimage with a need for craftsmen, it's not entirely surprising that it should have a cosmopolitan population. But the town itself was designed and laid out by one Maynard the Fleming, another one of David I's imports, who was also the town provost. The layout of St Andrews with South and North Street leading as processionals towards the cathedral and abbey, designed by that medieval Flemish bloke, is the same design that survives for students, tourists and golf enthusiasts today. Oh, and anyone that lives there. Does anyone actually live in St Andrews? I don't think they'd be watching videos by the likes of me. You can see the Flemish influence in the crow step gables of houses and the red pan tiles all along this and other East Coast towns and trading ports. Crail, Cellardyke, Anstruther, Einster, Couris, Pitt and Weem, they all traded with the Low Countries, bringing Flemish seamen and adopting distinctive Flemish architectural features. In the 16th and 17th century, the trickle of traders and medieval artisans turned into a flood. Violent religious wars and Reformation divided Flanders, and it sent refugees scuppering looking for a place where Catholics and Protestants wouldn't be killing each other. Well, Scottish monarchs were only too pleased to encourage them here to boost the economy and skills base. In 1581, the Scottish Parliament granted Robert Dixon of Perth permission to learn within this realm the art of the making and working of silks to be as good and sufficient as the same is made within the countries of France or Flanders, and to be sold within the same cheaper than the like silks bought here out of other countries. Now for that, he needed to access Flemish weavers. In 1587, some Flemish weavers successfully appealed to the Scottish Parliament to allow them to exercise their craft and occupation, and for the instruction of the said lieges in the exercise of the making of the works, and have offered to our said sovereign lord and whole commonwealth of this realm the experience and sure knowledge of their labours. In 1594, an act authorised the establishment of a strangers' church in Scotland to cater for these incomers. A government initiative of 1600 authorised 100 stranger families with textile skills to migrate to Scotland and to be made naturalised citizens. The Convention of Royal Boroughs recruited Flemish weavers who were dispersed to work in Dundee, Perth, Edinburgh and Ayr. There were Flemish all along the Tay estuary in Dundee and Perth. Did I not mention it? That's where I was just now. This is Perth Theatre. Now, apart from Perth's Flemish connection, I've brought you here because I'll be doing my live show, Stories of Scotland, in this beautiful theatre on the 21st of October 2023. This is going to be the best show of the tour, because this is where I'm fae. I've performed in this theatre more than any other. The atmosphere is fantastic. So click top right to buy tickets, or for details and tickets of all the tour shows, click the link in the description below. If you go back the records, you'll find Flemish names of people in key positions in both Perth and Dundee. You find them as provosts, bailies, burgesses and tradesmen, bonnet makers, tailors, weavers and masons. The 1601 Convention of Royal Boroughs initiative to recruit Flemish tradesmen allocated Klaus Lossier, a shearer, Cornelius Dermis, a weaver, and Henry de Turck, a clothmaker, to Dundee. There were Flemish craftsmen involved in the establishment of the Maltman Corporation in Dundee that still exists today. Here in Perth, that 1601 recruitment drive gave us Jacques de la Rudge, a camber and a spinner, Jacob Peterson, a shearer, and one of the few Flemish women identified by name, Abigail van Hort, also a spinner. John Drummond, second Earl of Perth, brought Flemish migrant weavers to Strathearn, where I live. That was between the period of 1611 and 1662, but it's just a taste of the impact that Flemish folk had here in Scotland. Modern Scots are a wonderful mix of all sorts of folk that have arrived over the centuries to create the people that we are today. Was like us. If you want to see the series of videos on the different people who made Scotland, then a series of videos is coming up on screen now. Please help to keep these videos coming by sponsoring the channel. You can become a Patreon member by clicking the link up there, or buy me a coffee in the description below. And of course, come and see me here. Ha my dag is going to be a lamb alive. Cherry and rest.